So in this class, I'm going to teach you everything that you need to know about the schwa sound. And before we get into this, I just want to say everything from today's lesson will be included in the PDF, along with a few extra examples as well. So make sure to check that out. Right then, what is the schwa sound? Well, as mentioned, it is this. And it's actually used to replace certain vowels in words and sentences in order to improve the flow of those words and sentences. And British people use this all the time, believe me. Now, before we get into when we use it and how we use it, let me just show you how to make this noise yourself. And it's actually very easy, don't worry. So, firstly, everything should be very relaxed. You don't want to stress any muscles. Your mouth should be slightly open. Your lips should be neutral, so flat. Your tongue should be relaxed in the center of your mouth, and you need to go, Yes, it's easy, right? And that's the whole point. It's supposed to be a very lazy and relaxed sound. So when do we use this famous schwa sound? I've never heard anyone say in the middle of a sentence, you might be thinking. Well, let me explain. So as mentioned, this schwa sound can be used to replace vowels in words in order to make them easier to say or to connect with other words in a sentence. And this can be done with any of the vowels, and I'll show you some examples now. So we'll start with A. This is A, right? So normally you'd say A or A. However, this is very commonly replaced with a schwa in British English, so it becomes and I'll show you some words now. So right here we have about. It's not about, it's not about, it's about. Alone, not alone, not alone, alone, Around. Amazing. And you'll notice with this word, the first A is a schwa, but the second A isn't a schwa, it's A, so amazing. We'll get onto that later. Extra. So extra, the schwa sound at the end. And this shows you that the schwa doesn't actually have to be at the start of a word. It can be at the start, the middle, the end, anywhere, as long as there is a vowel there, okay? Another example. E, and once again this is quite commonly replaced with a schwa, so it's not E or E, it becomes For example, taken, not taken, taken. Item, problem, it's not problem, happen, children. Okay, and you'll notice this all sounds very natural. I'm not forcing this whatsoever, because this is genuinely how I say these words. We use this schwa sound a lot, okay? The next vowel is I. Now this is probably the least likely vowel to be turned into a schwa, but it does still happen. So for example, easily, easily, not easily, not easily, easily. Pencil. That's a good example. Pencil, not pencil, not pensile, pencil. Okay? Next up we have O, and this is another one that's really commonly replaced with a schwa. So instead of O or, it becomes For example, today. Police. Effort, not effort, not effort, effort. Doctor. Now this is another good example, kind of similar to amazing that we did earlier. One of these O's is a schwa, so the second one is a schwa, and the first one isn't. So we have doc, the normal O sound, then t, so the schwa sound, okay? And finally, button, schwa sound. And finally we have U, which is sometimes turned into a schwa, but not as common as A, E, or O. So for example, success, regular, popular, okay? So as mentioned, the schwa sound can appear in any vowel, but it's most commonly found in A, E, or O, which become and Now you might be thinking, well, Dylan, that's brilliant, but how do I know if a word contains a schwa in it, if I should say or ah? And that's a good question. Let me explain. So where do we find these schwas? Well, the first thing to know is that unfortunately, there isn't really a concrete rule about whether a vowel should be a schwa or not. But that's fine, because we do have a few pretty consistent rules for you to follow, and then you'll be able to listen out to other native speakers, and they can show you which words should or shouldn't have schwas in them. And most importantly, you'll be able to understand why, because you understand the theory. And honestly, that's kind of what developing a British accent is all about, just understanding the core theory, listening out to native speakers apply this theory, and then copying them. And that's why shadowing is so good. And don't worry, we have a lot of shadowing practice throughout this module. I've got you covered. Right then, let me teach you the rules. So firstly, the schwa normally appears in unstressed parts of words. So every word has at least one syllable that you put more stress onto, and therefore the other parts of that word are unstressed and often schwa sounds. And by stressed, I just mean the part of the word that you say louder and more clearly than the others. So let me show you some examples. We have this word here, agree. And here we have two syllables, and gree. So I just want you to listen to how I say it and work out which part I say louder and more clearly. Agree. 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 So hopefully it's quite obvious that the gree is a lot louder and the is a lot faster, and that is why it's a schwa sound. Agree. Agree. Okay, I'll show you some more examples. So we have balloon. 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 Here the loon is a lot stronger, right? And the b is a schwa sound. Balloon. Balloon. Banana. Banana. So we have b, na. There's a big stress in the middle. Banana. So the b is a schwa, the na isn't, but the na is. Banana. Banana. Alone. 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 The very short. The lone is very strong. So that's the stress part, and the is the schwa. Chocolate. 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 So the first part is stressed, choc, and the second part is just a simple schwa sound, chocolate. Now, if you're wondering how you can find the stress part in a word, simply just say that word slowly and listen out for the part that sounds louder and more clear than the others. So, chocolate. Chocolate. And chocolate. You can hear there's a lot of emphasis on the chocolate, right?